Hi, my name's Eric, and I am here with Micah, and we are with the Institute for Gas Price Reduction. We are here today to talk to you about the price of gas. We are advocates for lower priced fuel. Here in California, we are, unfortunately, we have some of the highest gas prices in the nation. You may have noticed, as I have, that the fuel prices have gotten a lot lower due to this pandemic and some other factors, and that is some welcome relief. But if you compare us to other states, you're still going to find, unfortunately, we are still among the top in America. So we're just here to talk to you about what is going on with gas and gas prices, what can be done to lower them, and what is Sacramento doing that might raise them. So, Micah here with me is executive director of the Institute for Gas Price Reduction. And the topic of today is going to be a bill pending in the legislature called AB 345, Assembly Bill 345. And this bill could raise our gas prices and increase our dependency on foreign oil. So, Micah, why don't you tell me who authored this bill and what is the goal?
So, Assemblyman Merritt Suchi authored AB 345, the Natural Resources Environmental Justice Oil and Gas Regulation of Operations. That's the title. The claim is that oil production in the state is not safe enough, so we need to create some more regulations to therefore make it safe enough to continue on. That is the claim. If you follow Merritt Suchi in his protests he does, you'll see a lot of signs that say leave it in the ground, which isn't make it safe enough, it's stop doing it. And we believe that's his intention, regardless of the safety label.
So, my understanding is that a big part of why he wants to do this is he feels that oil wells and oil companies are basically preying on the poor in terms of where they locate these wells. And there's a public safety, a health safety for the community implication that he is hoping that if we can get these wells further away from schools and get these wells out of the community to a degree that it'll help people's health. So, is it really true though that oil wells are disproportionately being located in poor communities?
They show pictures of minority children kicking soccer balls next to oil wells, and they don't talk about the oil wells in Huntington Beach, Long Beach, Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills High School actually leased part of their land to oil companies to drill to help subsidize the school.
So, Micah, you had mentioned to me, we were chatting a little bit before the broadcast. You had mentioned to me that LA County would stand to lose $200 million in tax revenue
Yes.
if AB 345 passes. And right now with COVID-19 already huge problem for our local budgets. That seems like that's a big impact. How would that affect things?
So the way that would happen is one of the rules in this bill is that all oil wells would have to be located 2,500 feet away from any existing buildings. Because these buildings were built in an oil field, that would greatly reduce where they could be drilled, and it would shut down many already existing wells. For example, in the city of Los Angeles, this would negate 87% of the wells, and in Los Angeles County, 66% of the wells would go away. Just in Los Angeles County, that would be $200 million lost in tax revenue and $2 billion from circulating in the economy.
2 billion. That's a phenomenal amount of money. And when you're talking about what was that percentage that would be lost? 80 something percent, you said?
87% in the city of Los Angeles.
Well, as as consumers, as advocates of consumers, how is that going to impact our dependence on foreign oil? We are already in California. My understanding is we already are pretty dependent on foreign oil in contrast to the rest of the country.
Absolutely. So we used to produce a lot more oil here. At the moment, we produce 30% of California's oil demand. We ship down 10% from Alaska, and the other 60% comes from foreign countries. These are foreign countries that don't have OSHA, don't have unions, and don't have the environmental standards that we have.
And my understanding is half of that oil also passes through the Strait of Hormuz in the Middle
Absolutely.
East, which is one of the most dangerous and prone to instability regions we could imagine. And I think that, you look right now at COVID-19 and dealing with shortages and toilet paper, obviously, that's a big one that we've all seen. I still don't have toilet paper at the supermarket around the corner from me. So I'm lucky that I've got a supply. So, but when we've got domestic suppliers, as we actually do with toilet paper, so the shortage of toilet paper is not actually a supply issue. It's a public panic issue. But we've got a good supply domestically of toilet paper. Also, agriculture. Our farmers produce the food that we need here, so we don't have to worry about going hungry. But given a what it's like to suddenly find that we don't have access to something, I think that's a legitimate thing we need to think about. What if a war breaks out in the Middle East and all of a sudden that oil that passes through the Strait of Hormuz can't get to us anymore?
Yeah, as this pandemic is happening, we're hearing a lot about supply chains and the instability that more complicated supply chains can cause. The supply chain from the oil fields of California to the oil refineries of California is rather simple. But once you get to how do we get it from the Middle East to California, you can point to a day where it goes smooth and say, see, what's the problem? But as we know, all of a sudden the news, some ship rams another ship, and then everything's, oh, what's going to happen over there? So it creates a lot of variables that can impact us in a heartbeat. And the more variables we have, the less insecure our product lines are.
So you mentioned something a moment ago about our regulations here in California versus regulations elsewhere in the world, and that impacts both the environment for all of us, for the whole planet, but it also impacts the situation at hand directly with this bill. So, what is the state of regulations on our local oil production? Is it underregulated?
So we have a umbrella department called the Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources. Under that, there are a multitude of agencies, 25 agencies directly regulating the safety, maintenance, and emissions of oil production in California. So to say we need one more to make sure the environment, to make sure it's just, doesn't make sense to me.
And given how litigious our state is as well, I would imagine somebody's probably sued about this issue at some point. So what have the courts said?
So there was a big case where somebody found a document where Chevron said that, hey, all this emissions is concerning. And it is concerning. There's no scientist that says, hey, burn it all up and let's see how much carbon we can get in the air. There's concerns and we have to address them the right way. This case came out of San Francisco, went up to the feds, and they said, they dismissed it. They said they can be concerned and still produce oil. You can do both at the same time. Oil is so essential to our lifestyles right now. We absolutely believe that there are ways to mitigate the harm, but mandating that you don't use it now before those mitigations are in place just hurts the consumers who need to get places.
Micah, you had the opportunity to view a hearing in Kern County on this issue, and what was coming up at that hearing that you told me was that people are really concerned in Kern County about, and not just Kern County, because I've spent so much time in the Central Valley and other counties as well. And people are concerned about air quality. And I read that the population in the Central Valley is growing. So with a growing population comes more cars, comes more more industry. So there is a emissions impact that comes with that. So, but does AB 345 really address the cause of that?
No, it doesn't. I feel like they've conflated the production of oil with the burning of oil. They, in the language, they'll talk about the hazards of the production and combustion of fossil fuels. Now, obviously, your car, if you run your car in your garage with the door shut, you're going to have a bad time. We all understand that, but that doesn't mean that the production of oil is dirty, and there's plenty of science to show that. Another issue with California, as you know, the San Joaquin Valley is, as amazing as our weather is here in California, we have a bit of a geographical curse, and that's that we're smack dab in between two big mountain ranges. So air doesn't flow through as steadily as it does in some places. Because of this, we continuously hear the San Joaquin Valley has the worst air quality in the nation. What they don't talk about is, well, are we doing better? Right? So at first it was, we got to get our emissions down to this level and then to that level. And then, okay, we went 1990 standards. And now this 40% below 1990 standards, because they can't go before 1990 standards because it actually got better. So if they went before 1990, it would go worse. So now they say 40% below 1990 standards, never giving any kind of congratulations along the way for hitting the goal. They just moved the goal.
Well, I think that one of the facts of that is part of this challenge that is a reality is going back to the growing population. So even with the improvements in emissions and improvements in technology, our state population in the last generation has doubled. So there's an emissions. It really is fantastic when you think about it, the amount that emissions have gone down in combination with the population doubling. So we've kind of got more than one thing that is going into this equation. And I think that what we need is we need to be creative. We need solutions that actually work. So I think we need to talk about that. So Micah, if AB 345 is not actually the answer, if it's not actually going to reduce emissions, that is still something we need to do. So what are some smarter solutions that will keep the air clean and do what I think we all actually want, which is have clean air, have good jobs, have revenue for the services we need? What do we do?
The answer is technology. And I can give you two past examples we know for sure. In 1970s, the population of California was 20 million people. So they could have done the math to now and said the emissions are going to be double. But nobody could have predicted the invention of the catalytic converter or fuel management systems controlled by computers that make your truck put out less pollution than your lawnmower. We are currently in the midst of a technological revolution with what we're doing right now. We're working and we're not at work, right? This alone could reduce 10%, 15% of the commutes going in and out of the city. So this one's still shaping up, and we're going to see how it works and how people like it. We have Twitter tweeted out that anyone that it's working for, stay home. When everyone comes back, if you want to stay home, you can stay home. Here in Sacramento, we have people called super commuters that literally drive 2 hours to go work in San Francisco, oftentimes for tech and financial jobs that some of them might be able to stay home. So that would be a freedom, a choice-based reduction instead of mandating the reduction.
Micah, there are even the living costs in the San Francisco Bay Area are so high. There are even commuters that live in Las Vegas and live in Oregon who commute to jobs in San Francisco. And they've actually found that flying in and out of the city every day is it leaves them ahead, and they're able to have a house. And they actually have done the numbers and found that they come out ahead. But I read a study that said that right now only about 10% of people that are doing flexible work arrangements, only 10% are of the number that actually could be doing flexible work arrangements actually are. And I think that to some degree, we're used to doing business as usual. So it takes a little while for us all just culturally to catch up to the technology available to us now. But reports are saying that as of right now, as we're broadcasting this in the middle of the COVID-19 lockdown, that the environment is better than it's ever been. And a lot of us, some people aren't able to work, and that is a real problem. Not all jobs can be done from home, but a lot can. And I think that is part of the equation. That is a way that we don't need to raise the price of gas. We don't need to harm our economy. We don't need to deprive our local governments of revenue they need for services that we all depend on. That's a solution that helps our environment, that gets emissions out of the air, and does it in a way that honestly, for a lot of people who work at home, a lot of people that have these flexible work arrangements, it's not for everybody, even if they are able to do it. But to be honest, there are a lot of people that still get their work done, are still able to be productive, and now they're able to watch their kids while they work. Now they're able to not drive 2 hours because their life is in Roseville, or their life is in Manteca or somewhere, and they're fully able to get that job done from home without the 2 hour commute. So they are super happy when they have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this shakes out. I have a friend who did the same thing, where she was a medical biller, switched to doing it from home because the 2 hours from after school to her getting off work cost $1,000 a month to watch her kid. The schooling is going to be the most interesting. I think the straight A students that you can't pull a book out of their hand, I think they'll do okay with this kind of new technology. It's not going to be for everyone. I'm fairly confident the schooling's not going to be for everyone, but how many commutes could we eliminate if we allowed the children that this does work for to not have to be driven to and from school every day? I think there's a lot of opportunity to reduce the amount of travel people need to do to where we can get it to the travel people want to do.
Well, and I think the education thing, that kind of, it brings up an interesting point about just being creative in how we look for solutions. Because I think you're right. You've got those straight A students that probably can do well, in a multitude of learning environments. But you also have people like what I was like as a kid. And I just, there's learning styles, and the process of somebody standing up in front of a room and talking to me, that's not how my mind works. So it's not that I'm not intelligent, or generally the mindset is, well, that teacher and talking to you is that's beneficial. But for me, I would much rather just read something on my own, something that I could look at, as opposed to listening I'm a little bit more of a visual guy. Like I would rather give me something to look at as opposed to having to follow while you talk.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that is the same with the flexible workplaces that, right now we've got the immense amount of people who could be doing it who are not. And it's not a solution for everybody. But for some people, if they had access to it, they would find that it would benefit them and it benefit the environment.
Yes. And a positive approach that we can encourage our lawmakers towards is something called competition-based grants. There was an example of a guy that had a program called the X Prize. And what he would do is he would put out money and say, if somebody can solve this problem, you get the money. He put out $10 million. $100 million was spent by college students and scientists to get the 10 million. So you got a tenfold expenditure. The goal was you have to be able to make a plane, carry X amount of people up so high and bring them back down safely and do it again in 2 weeks. A team came up with the solution. They got the money. Richard Branson bought the technology and started Galactic Air, right? And that guy has since moved into carbon capture. How can we pull drinking water out of the air? Things like that. The Sierra Club has an operating budget of $100 million a year. How about you guys push some of that out for competition-based grants so we can get the best and brightest college students to start working on this and have a carrot at the end of the stick to try to get to, instead of just screaming about leave it in the ground.
Totally. And I relate to that. I'm an entrepreneurial guy. If you tell me that you're going to give me $1 million if I can figure something out, if I have any possible ability to figure that thing out, I am going to figure out what I can do to get the $1 million. So, with that, to wrap it all up, AB 345 is not the answer to the problems that we're facing. It's not going to help us clean up the air, and it is going to raise the price of gas and make us more dependent on foreign oil. So, Micah, what can consumers out there do to help and to stop AB 345?
So right now the bill is with the Commission on Natural Resources, and they're going to do their amend and send it to the Senate. And we encourage everyone to call, email, snail mail your senators and tell them we all feel like the emissions are concerning. But today, oil is essential. And because it's still essential today, please don't punish the people that provide it to us. Let's work on getting off of it. And then once we find those new technologies, those new ways of doing things, then we will be able to reduce our demand and reduce our emissions. But just tell them, stop punishing us for using something we have to.
The oil is a definite part of our lives for the moment, whether we like it or not. There is a multitude of products we use every day, from sweaters to garden hoses to contact lenses to cosmetics, that are petroleum based. So, this is not something that is going to change anytime soon. And we are going to continue to need fuel, and we want that fuel to be affordable, and we want it to be produced locally and not in other countries that don't have our environmental protections and that have unreliable and unstable political environments. So with that, we appreciate you being here with us today. You can check out more about the Institute for Gas Price Reduction on our website, gaspricereduction.org. Follow us on Facebook, fb.com/gas price reduction. And thank you so much. Thank you, Micah. And thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Eric. Bye.